Okay, I think we're on and ready to go. Hello, friends. Today we're making some watercolor blocks. I'm going to start with first how we make it, and then as we're making it, I'll go into why you might want one of these. And that's more of a hey, I want to make sure we have time to get to everything, but um that's the reason. So as we jump in, what do you need? You need a thermal cinch. So that's what we have right here. I'm also going to use the 3 different cameras today, so you'll see all of those. Hi, Kathy. Welcome back. And in addition to the thermal cinch, you need some watercolor paper, some chipboard, the thermal cinch glue strips, some heavy duty scissors, and some washi tape. So that's all you need to make these. Now I have the cinch heated up, ready to go. So I'm going to jump in real quick to how we start this because I want to show you as much as I can today. And also you'll need some parchment or wax paper. So as much as I can show you today, I want to show you. So I have this black watercolor paper, easy to find, to get. You can also, of course, use white watercolor paper, and I have a block already made that we'll take a look at in just a minute. But I wanted to use some of my black watercolor paper, and I have taken one of the glue strips, cut it down to just the right amount. Now you're going to want to use the glue strip and not the pre-made spines, and we'll go through why that is, but you just need to cut it down to just the right length. And you'll need the right length on 3 of the sides, and then on the 4th side you'll need just a little bit less. So you want this to be just the same size. So your chipboard plus your paper should match just the size you're using for the glue strip. So that's step 1. Step 2 is to grab some tape and start taping the edges. And you can kind of see I'm holding this down on the table so that it stays, the paper stays all together, because that's really important. Grab this, glue that down, stick it down. And this blue tape just does not leave a lot of residue. Although the one thing you will want to seriously remember is this top page may get ruined. So if you're using really expensive paper, you want to have a separate top page. On this, I'm not too worried about it either way. I'm also going to grab some of this washi tape and tape it down. Oh, Kathy, you got some parchment paper? Are you going to make some books with it? Because that'll be awesome. I love parchment paper. Oh, make sure I got that good and straight. And I'm going to want to do this on all 3 sides so that all the paper stays exactly where I want it. You don't need a lot of tape, just enough to hold it in place. So there we go. Grab 2 more strips and we'll be done. And I'm not putting the other glue sticks on, just this first one. And the reason why is it'll melt in the corner and it'll just be a mess. It'll just be a lot harder. So it's easier to do this kind of one at a time. And I say that and I make a huge mess. Okay. There we go. So holding this strong. This is the hardest part, is getting it started. Everything else from there is downhill. Next, This is the side with the glue, so it's the side that's going to go down, and you definitely want to have parchment paper. On my last video where I was showing the 5 tips for this, there was some controversy in the comments over parchment paper, and a lot of people didn't feel like it was necessary. On this, since we're not using the spine, it is 100% necessary. I like it even when you're using a spine, but on this, absolutely necessary. I also find it's a little easier to deal with if you just fold this paper in, and I'm just going to go ahead and tape it at the same time so it kind of stays in. That's not going to work. Never mind. I'm not going to tape it. And I'm going to stick it in to the cinch, which, like I said, is already heated up. Let's, having issues, of course. There we go. And we want to make sure it is solidly in there. Okay, then I'm going to push the timer, and it'll go for 2 minutes, and then I will let it stay for an extra minute. So I'm going to push this to the side, and let's check out this watercolor block that I already made. And I have my craft knife. Now, like I said, the top paper, you need to be okay with losing it. It's just a waste anyway, so I put some leftover paper that I had on it, and you can kind of see it didn't fully stick down, and that's why, because it's not the exact same size as everything else. But you'll leave a portion of this watercolor paper open so that you can get your knife and just slide it in. And this is why you don't want to use one of the spines on the watercolor block, because it's more to cut through. It's just a lot easier when you only have the glue there. And what you can buy watercolor coloring blocks. They're just very expensive. You can also make them yourself with some tacky glue, but it is messy and kind of a pain. So I haven't made one in a long time because they're a lot of work to do. And this way is easier and cleaner. Is how I'd put it. I don't know that it's faster, but it is cleaner. Okay, 1 more minute and we'll take that out. And I'm just cutting around gently through, really mainly through the glue. Now a little bit through the backing of this paper, and that's because, like I said, the first page, the top page just kind of gets a lot of glue in between and through, so you just kind of have to accept that and know that it's going to have issues. But we've got it. And the next time when I cut actual stuff off, when I cut this page off, it won't have as much glue inside. It'll come up a lot cleaner. So this is just trash, and I'm going to throw that away now. Now we have the watercolor paper. And I think that's been about a minute. So I'm going to pull this out, and we're going to tap it down just a little bit. Make sure everything is still aligned. And I'm going to flip it over and put it in the back here to cool down, just like we do with every other normal book. You will see a little bit of glue came off and down there. So even in that short time, it's kind of solidified a little bit. So we'll just rub it off. And I've used the same paper for every single book I've made. So it's gotten a lot of use. You don't need a lot of paper to do this. Now, let me show you a picture of a watercolor painting I did a couple years ago. It's a large painting, and you can see on the edge at the very bottom, there's a bunch of holes throughout that paper. what I did before doing any painting, any drawing on the paper, I dunked it in a bath of hot water. I pulled it out, immediately put it onto the watercolor board, and stapled around the edges. Now, what that does is the hot water heats up and allows the fibers of the paper to kind of open up. Then while it's still hot and open up, I stapled around the edges and let it dry. Once it was dried, it was very tight over that board, and I could paint even when I added water, it stayed tight. This is a very similar idea or theory behind this. Now, as I add water, it will bubble a little bit, but the glue helps it dry back flat. So if you've ever done a watercolor painting and everything gets all bubbly and you have to put it through your die cutting machine to kind of flatten it out, this way you don't have to deal with that. So if we add water to this, it will dry back flat. And that's really the big value of these watercolor papers. You also don't have to tape the edges, right? You see a lot of people taping the edges of these. That way you don't have to do it. Oh, thanks, Kathy. I'm assuming you mean on that um, watercolor painting. I'm I'm pretty happy with it, but I think I need to go darker. So I'm actually planning to take that back out and put it up on another board and paint more on it to get a little bit more definition, which I'm really excited about. If anybody wants to see that, I can make a live on it, or I can just do it off screen. So I'm really excited about it, and then I want to frame it. So, okay, so that's kind of how this works. And I'll paint a little bit on this in a minute so you can see, but I wanted to show you then the next step is this is, oh, it does not look like this melted in very well on this edge. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one back in. I apologize. You want to do it right, so that's always something good to check, and you can kind of see that there. So I'm going to stick that down. And I think what happened is it just wasn't touching the hot plate. And so I'm going to get up and go around and really make sure that it's touching the bottom all the way across. Okay. Always important to check that. While that's going, I did want to show you, you can also do this with a watercolor pad. So here's my Fabriano Artistico watercolor pad, and this is the best watercolor paper I've ever used. So my recommendation when you want to do something artistic, if you're making a card for someone who's going to throw the card away, don't waste your money on the really nice watercolor paper. Use less expensive watercolor paper, but if you're trying to make something like arty, actually use the nice paper. So it came with glue on this edge, right? It came already together. And you can see that it was similar to this paper where you just pull it off on the edge. So I left that as is. Then I glued this side edge because I wanted to keep the papers exactly together. Then I've glued this edge, and the last edge is open. And here I'm going to do what I said you should do, and I'm just going to cut this one in the middle, this glue stick. I'm going to line the glue stick up on the corner here and wrap that tight around. Okay, and then I'm going to line this one up and wrap that around as well. Now, if I can find where I put the other end of that, I think it's here. I'm going to, oh, that's just not quite enough space here to get your knife in. I mean, it is, but it isn't. So I'm going to scooch it over and leave about a finger's width across. A lot of times you use a palette knife, so you just want to make sure there's enough space there. I'm going to wrap the corner end as well, and then I'll cut this little extra off. Next, maybe I used the wrong piece. I don't know. Okay, pull that out. We'll double check that this all got glued. Yeah, it did. I'm going to push it down. I can see glue kind of coming out from the edges, so I am happy you can see that too. That will happen since we don't have the cover, the binding around. That will happen. So I'm just kind of squeezing it together, and then I'm going to let that cool off over here. Now, this extra glue, just you want to rub it off so it doesn't get everywhere, because you're going to reheat this up again. So rub this all off, and here we're going to put this Fabriano one in again for the last time. And I wanted you to see you can buy your regular pack of paper and use it easily. Okay, I'll make sure this gets nice and fully in. Maybe fold that, fold this other edge, and stick it down. Since this one's so large, it's the 12 inches across. Oh, I think I've got it. Okay, I think I got it. We'll see. I'll push that again. It's a little bit more unwieldy, and you can't see as well to the bottom to make sure it's touching. Now, these do have it has one edge that is glue, so you can see that right here. This stick here is the glue end, and then the other side is the adhesive end, which is a little hard to think about, but the adhesive end is that white sticker, and you pull that white sticker off, and theoretically it's for when you want to make your own binding, right, out of your own paper. Then you just stick that onto the paper in the same way. Then you have the same thing as what the bindings that we used on the last video. But here, I don't want the extra paper, the extra bulk. So I'm just going to pull off the glue edge, the adhesive strip. Now it makes it harder because the glue kind of seeps in. So you can of course just leave this, but you have to cut through it then. If you can, I did the other 3 edges so that it'd be easy and fast for you. And then of course I can't get this one edge off. And this is the edge where it has 2 different pieces. But I just pull those off, and then I'll use my anti-static powder tool to rub the other edges, and that just makes it not sticky anymore. So all we got to do is go like this. And we're done there. So while that one finishes up, let's test how this one, this one is going to be really good. I can feel it. So let's grab this other side, and we're just going to peel this tape back just enough to add in. Oh, I used, maybe I didn't. Okay, we're gonna, I think we're good. I'm gonna use this end and tape over, and I may tape over the ends as well so that it sticks in place and all the paper sticks tight together. So we're gonna stick that there, grab another tiny bit of tape here for the end. Then with this tiny little piece, we're going to add it in as well. And again, I think I haven't cut that quite long enough, so I'm going to glue that there. Now, don't want to leave this in too long, so we're going to take it out, and I'll finish that in just a second. Pull this out. Ooh, there we go. Yeah, got that glue. It looks like it has fully melted. We're just going to let this dry, and this one is done and ready for some fun paint. There we go. Pull all the glue. I like to do the glue immediately because I will forget, and then this extra glue just would make everything really messy. So that's why I'm doing it right away. And there we go. Because the glue is heat activated, so it will reheat. And there we go. Next, I did want to cut this edge down. I think we're close enough to the edge here, but I will add just one more piece of tape right here. And this is the last edge we'll do, but that's exactly how you do it. You just need one edge with a small portion open. Some people use the corner and they'll leave the corner open, but I like the corners tight. I always do it on the long end because you have so much tension everywhere else that a little bit being open is not a big deal. So now we'll fold this back up, add it in, and add it back in. And then later I'll go in and add the other two ends. But me. Okay, that seems like it's seated fully. Let's try painting with this so I can show you a little bit of the value of why we're doing this. The one other thing I wanted to say, and I didn't have quite time to test this out, is I want to be able to stamp and emboss on this. So I plan to use the black coloring pad to try and stamp and emboss on the top page and start watercoloring and see if I can get a good enough stamp image to do it that way. Otherwise, I think what you could do is use your loose leaf watercolor paper, stamp and emboss on all the different pages, and then go ahead and do the creating the watercolor blocks. So that's definitely an option. The problem I saw with that is, of course, embossing powder is heat activated itself. So I was a little bit worried that, if you got too close to the edge, it would melt and distort your image. Also, you don't want to do the same image over and over and you're always having to use whatever's on top. So that was kind of the reason I haven't done that yet. And so I'll try this out and let you guys know how it goes. So if we want to just grab some watercolor, I have a little bit of water here, and I'm going to go ahead and spray the whole background. And we're just going to get that nice and soaked in. We want to leave it to soak into the papers, the fibers of the paper. That's a big thing with watercolor. You want to kind of get the watercolor paper wet a little bit. Now, sometimes at the very end, you'll want to do some dry brush to get some detail, but at the beginning, especially when you want to get big washes, you want to get the watercolor paper wet first. So that's definitely a tip For those of you who haven't done as much watercolor is my favorite type of painting, so I do have some thoughts on it. So we're just going to let that soak in just a little bit. And maybe let's grab some green, this rustic wilderness. I'm excited for the 3 new sets that they've come out with. Mine are on order, but I haven't received them. So I'm excited to try those out. And I don't think it's gone yet, but we'll see. Oh, you know what might also be fun is to get some of the brushos. That'll be fun on this background. But let's get a little bit of green, and then I can come in with the brushos, and we can let it kind of pop. This is how I tend to use these watercolor pencils, just to hold. I don't ever actually color down onto the paper. I find just holding it is a really nice feeling way to paint for me. So there we go. I just love Tim Holtz's colors that he has in his line. And he said that this is that last one he did is the last color he's putting out. But I think he said that like 5 years ago. I think as long as he's making money, he's going to be producing more colors. Okay, so we'll leave that there, and I'll pick out a color that'll go with this. Maybe this one. Okay, this is sea green, and if you've never used Brusho before, these are magical and so much fun. What's in this little container is very similar to these watercolor pencils. It's just shavings of these kind of the pigment, tiny little pigment powder, and the whole jar's filled up, and it's not just one color, it's usually a couple colors. So when we spritz it down, it should kind of burst, and you can kind of see that. If it's not enough to your taste, you can either leave it or you can come in and add a little bit more spritz to get it moving a little bit more. So, oh, that's so fun. And I hope you can kind of see, since I have so much water on here, there are some mountains and some valleys. I don't know if you can kind of tell that. Hopefully moving the water, you'll see it's just rippled. The paper is rippled. And that's okay, because we have it. This has to be done. Okay, I apologize. And of course I've ripped this paper, so I'll have to get some more, but it lasted a good 20 or 30 times. And it has the glue has seeped in, which is exactly what we want, is for the glue to seep in between those pages. So I'm going to leave that to go, and I'll just go ahead and throw that away. And I will finish that one up. Sorry. I'll finish that one up tomorrow. So I got rid of too much of the Brusho. I'm going to have to go in and add just a tiny bit more because I love the Brusho. I love the effect. So this is going to be the ultramarine color, and we'll add just a tiny bit of it and let it soak out as is. And we won't add anything more to this, and we'll have an awesome, fun picture. So, okay, I think that's everything that we'll do today. What these watercolor blocks are, why you might want one, and just a reminder, on Sunday we're going to do a random card party. We're going to do random things and make hopefully something pretty, potentially something crazy. I hope y'all join me. You can craft along and see. You use the random things and we'll see who makes the coolest card. And then the March lineup here is a quick picture. If you check on my YouTube page, you can also see this same picture and see everything that's coming. And I will see you all on Sunday. Thank you so much, everybody who joined live. Thanks, everybody who watched later. Thank you so much, Kathy. I love that you comment. It helps keep me going. I hope you guys